Welcome to Whispers and Confessions. There might be a twist waiting, so please make sure to watch until the end. Don't forget to subscribe and like. Let's begin right away.
The sight of her lithe body moving in perfect synchronicity with Victor's was hypnotic, and I found myself lost in a potent fantasy of intimacy with both women simultaneously. Fate has a peculiar way of weaving the tapestry of our lives, often leading us down unexpected paths that turn out to be exhilarating adventures. I'm Frank, a 37-year-old family man, and my wife Naomi is 38. We're the proud parents of an elementary school child, our little miracle after years of struggling with infertility. Perhaps we do spoil our kid a bit, but can you blame us? Every giggle, every milestone is a treasure we thought we might never experience. Our story intertwines with another couple, Victor and Scarlett, both 35. They too have a child in elementary school. There's something almost poetic about Victor and Scarlett's history. They've known each other since their awkward middle school days, sharing the same classrooms and watching each other grow into the people they are today. My Naomi, bless her heart, has a touch of naivety that sometimes lands her in hot water. She's the type to see the best in everyone, which unfortunately makes her an easy target for less scrupulous individuals. Just recently, she fell for a dubious door-to-door salesperson's pitch. But don't get me wrong, Naomi's kindness is her superpower. She has a heart of gold, a personality that lights up a room, skin as fair and smooth as porcelain, and in the bedroom, well, let's just say I'm a very lucky man. Her trusting nature might occasionally lead to some sticky situations, but it's also what makes her so lovable. I've taken it upon myself to be her guardian angel of sorts, always keeping an eye out to protect her from those who might take advantage. Our fateful encounter with Victor and Scarlett happened 5 years ago, though at the time, we had no idea how profoundly it would change our lives. Looking back now, it's almost surreal to think about how long our unconventional relationship has been going on. It all started on a sunny day when our child was on the cusp of starting elementary school. We decided to treat our little one to a day of magic at a local amusement park, specifically for a superhero show event. Despite the sea of eager families flooding the park, luck smiled upon us. We managed to snag prime seats for the superhero extravaganza, much to our child's delight. The show was a spectacle of lights, sounds, and heroic feats that had our little one absolutely mesmerized. As the final curtain fell, our child was practically vibrating with excitement, lost in a world of capes and superpowers. Post-show, we made our way to a nearby plaza, armed with a picnic basket of carefully prepared sandwiches. However, our attempts to get our pint-sized superhero to eat were futile. Our child was far too engrossed in reenacting scenes from the show, complete with sound effects and dramatic poses. In a moment of overzealous crime fighting, disaster struck. Our little hero accidentally toppled the lunchbox, sending our picnic sprawling across the ground in a mess of crumbs and scattered fruit. Naomi, frustrated and a bit embarrassed, began scolding our child. I was mentally calculating the quickest route to the nearest concession stand when salvation arrived in the form of Victor and Scarlett's family. They approached us, a beacon of kindness in our moment of culinary crisis. "Everything okay over here?" Victor called out, his voice warm and friendly. "We've got way more food than we can handle. Why don't you join us?" As if to prove his point, Scarlett extended a platter laden with mouth-watering burgers and a vibrant salad. It was clear they had indeed over-prepared, their picnic spread looking more suited for a small army than a family of 3. Scarlett's smile was as warm as the sun above us as she insisted, "I always cook too much. You'd really be doing us a favor if you joined in." As she leaned forward to offer us the food, I couldn't help but notice her white shirt had come slightly undone. The sight of her curvy figure and the delicate lace of her bra peeking out sent an unexpected jolt through me. I found myself biting my lip and averting my gaze each time she moved, her generous curves catching the sunlight in a way that made my breath catch. Naomi, oblivious to my internal struggle, was overcome with gratitude. "Thank you so much," she gushed, her eyes shining with relief and appreciation. "How can we ever repay you for this kindness?" Victor's response was a casual smile and a dismissive wave. "Don't worry about it. We're happy to help." In that moment, I remember thinking these strangers were nothing short of guardian angels, swooping in to save our family outing. As we settled in to enjoy Scarlett's homemade feast, burgers that put any restaurant to shame and a salad bursting with fresh, crisp vegetables, conversation flowed as easily as if we'd known each other for years. We discovered, much to our delight, that we lived remarkably close to one another. As the adults chatted, our children hit it off spectacularly, their superhero play reaching new heights of imagination and excitement. By the time we exchanged contact information and promised to meet again, it felt less like saying goodbye to new acquaintances and more like parting ways with old friends. Little did we know, this chance encounter would be the first chapter in a story that would reshape our lives in ways we never could have imagined. A few weeks after our initial encounter, Naomi reached out to Scarlett, eager to reciprocate their kindness. Inspired by Scarlett's culinary prowess, Naomi decided to invite them over for a home-cooked meal. I found myself looking forward to the gathering with a mixture of anticipation and guilt. Try as I might, I couldn't banish the memory of Scarlett's alluring cleavage from my mind. The thought of potentially catching another glimpse sent a thrill through me, quickly followed by a wave of shame. Get it together, man, I chastised myself, feeling like the worst kind of cad. The day of our little soiree arrived, and Naomi was a whirlwind of activity in the kitchen from dawn. When I offered to help, she shooed me away with a distracted, "I'm in the zone here. Make yourself useful elsewhere." Chuckling, I retreated to the garage to tidy up, only to be interrupted by the arrival of Victor and Scarlett's family. Our home quickly transformed into a hub of warmth and laughter. They arrived bearing gifts, a bottle of exquisite wine, top-shelf whiskey, and the piece de resistance, Scarlett's homemade apple pie. The aroma alone was mouth-watering. "You shouldn't have," I kept saying, genuinely touched by their thoughtfulness. As we settled in to enjoy the fruits of Naomi and Scarlett's culinary labors, I noticed something I had overlooked during our previous encounter. Victor and Scarlett were incredibly tactile with one another, their affection palpable in every casual touch and lingering glance. It created an atmosphere that was equal parts intimate and slightly uncomfortable for Naomi and me. As the evening progressed and the alcohol flowed, their demonstrative behavior only intensified. While our children were happily occupied with their superhero adventures in another room, we adults indulged in conversation that grew increasingly animated. Scarlett, in particular, underwent a remarkable transformation under the influence of alcohol. Gone was the polite reserve of our first meeting, replaced by a woman who seemed unable to keep her hands off her husband. She draped herself over Victor, peppering him with caresses and embraces that bordered on inappropriate for mixed company. Victor, for his part, seemed to revel in the attention, his hands wandering to Scarlett's chest or thighs with a casualness that created a palpable tension in the room. I couldn't help but notice Naomi's reaction to this display. Her cheeks were flushed, her breathing slightly elevated, and I could see a sheen of perspiration on her palms as she clutched her wine glass. Was she as affected by our guest's behavior as I was? The evening took an unexpected turn when Scarlett and Victor excused themselves briefly. When they didn't return after a few minutes, concern and, I'll admit, curiosity got the better of me. I made my way towards the bathroom, only to stumble upon a scene that left me breathless. There, just outside the bathroom door, Victor had Scarlett pressed against the wall. Her top and bra were pushed up, exposing her breasts to the dim hallway light, while Victor's hand had disappeared beneath her hiked-up skirt. They were lost in a passionate kiss, oblivious to my presence or the impropriety of their actions in someone else's home. I stood frozen, knowing I should look away but unable to tear my gaze from the erotic tableau before me. A mix of emotions surged through me, embarrassment at witnessing such an intimate moment, shock at their boldness, and an undeniable surge of arousal that left me feeling both exhilarated and ashamed. After what felt like an eternity but was likely only seconds, I managed to tear myself away, hurrying back to the living room with my heart pounding and my mind reeling. Rejoining Naomi, I struggled to maintain a facade of normalcy. Those two are certainly passionate about each other, I thought, trying to focus on our resumed conversation. As the evening wound down and our children began to show signs of fatigue, We bid our goodbyes. Scarlett's parting words, delivered with a look that could only be described as smoldering, sent a shiver down my spine. Next time, you simply must come to our place. The promise? Or was it a threat? In her tone left little doubt that our next encounter would be anything but ordinary. A month passed, during which I found my thoughts repeatedly drifting to Scarlett, to that stolen moment in the hallway, to the possibilities that lay ahead. When Scarlett called to invite us for a weekend getaway at their spacious home, complete with a garden and ample room for the children, I felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. As Naomi happily accepted the invitation, I couldn't shake the feeling that this upcoming visit would be a turning point. Something was going to happen, something that would irrevocably change the dynamic between our two couples. And despite my better judgment, I found myself looking forward to it with an anticipation that was both thrilling and terrifying. As we settled in for our 2-day, one-night stay, an electric undercurrent of anticipation coursed through me. Naomi, ever the gracious hostess, had outdone herself, preparing an array of mouth-watering dishes and selecting an impressive assortment of drinks. Victor and Scarlett arrived, their arms laden with an abundance of snacks that immediately captured our children's attention, their eyes widening with delight. As twilight descended, casting long shadows across the room, we adults found ourselves engrossed in animated conversation. The culinary spread before us was nothing short of exquisite, each morsel a testament to Naomi's culinary prowess. The carefully curated selection of drinks flowed freely, their flavors dancing on our palates. Meanwhile, our children, sated from an early dinner and worn out from the day's excitement, had drifted off to sleep, leaving us to revel in the rare luxury of adult company. As the night progressed, I couldn't help but notice a shift in Scarlett's demeanor. Her natural affection, which I had observed before, seemed to intensify. At one point, she casually brushed her hand against my arm, her touch lingering a moment longer than necessary. "You've got nice muscles," she purred, her eyes meeting mine with an intensity that sent a shiver down my spine. While I didn't mind the compliment, a part of me wondered if this was more than just friendly banter. Was Scarlett actually flirting with me? The atmosphere grew increasingly charged as the evening wore on. Scarlett, her movements slightly unsteady from the alcohol, appeared with an armful of fluffy towels. "How about a bath?" she suggested, her voice husky and inviting. The proposition hung in the air, laden with unspoken implications. Feeling a mix of excitement and awkwardness, I mumbled something about taking a quick bath with Naomi. Scarlett's gaze flickered between Naomi and me, a knowing smile playing on her lips. "Frank, you and your wife seem very close," she observed, her tone laced with curiosity. I fumbled for a response, acutely aware of the tension building in the room. "Well, we get along, but I'm sorry it's taking so long for us to bathe." "That's the only reason," I replied, my words sounding hollow even to my own ears. Scarlett's response was a noncommittal, "Do as you like." But the glint in her eyes told me she was far from indifferent to the situation unfolding before her. Naomi and I retreated to the bathroom, the unfamiliarity of bathing together after so long adding to the surreal quality of the evening. We hurried through our ablutions, acutely aware of Victor and Scarlett waiting for us. As we emerged, toweling off our damp skin, we were struck by the eerie silence that had descended upon the living room. "Huh? Where did those two go?" Naomi whispered, her voice tinged with confusion and a hint of something else. Excitement, perhaps? Our eyes were drawn to the sliding door leading to the adjacent room, which had been wide open earlier but was now firmly shut. The sounds emanating from behind it left little to the imagination. The unmistakable creaking of furniture mingled with muffled gasps and sighs, painting a vivid picture of what was transpiring on the other side of that thin barrier. Through the translucent glass, we could make out the silhouettes of two bodies moving in tandem. My heart began to race as the realization dawned on me. "Oh!" I exchanged a meaningful glance with Naomi, her eyes wide with a mixture of shock and curiosity. It was abundantly clear that Victor and Scarlett were engaged in an intimate encounter just feet away from us. Naomi's hand flew to her mouth, her cheeks flushing a deep crimson. "What should we do?" she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. I found myself in a state of conflicted arousal, surprised by the boldness of our friends, yet undeniably excited by the taboo nature of the situation. Unable to resist the temptation, I leaned in close to Naomi, my lips brushing against her ear as I whispered, "Should we take a little peek?" The suggestion was risky, pushing the boundaries of propriety, but a part of me wondered if this was precisely what Victor and Scarlett had intended. After all, they must have been aware of our presence nearby. Naomi's initial response was a breathless, "No way. I'm too embarrassed," but her body language told a different story. Her face was flushed, her breathing shallow and quick, and I could feel the heat radiating from her skin. Emboldened by her obvious arousal, I gently placed my hand on the sliding door, my fingers trembling slightly as I eased it open just enough to afford us a view. The scene that greeted us was nothing short of mesmerizing. Victor and Scarlett were lost in their passion, their bodies entwined on the plush sofa. Scarlett's top lay discarded on the floor, her lithe figure bathed in the soft, ambient light of the room. Victor's hands roamed her curves with reverent intensity, their lips locked in a fervent kiss that spoke volumes of their desire. The air was heavy with the scent of their arousal, a heady mixture that sent my senses reeling. I felt Naomi press against me, her eyes fixed on the erotic tableau before us. She swallowed hard, her breath catching in her throat as we watched our friends lose themselves in each other. The intimacy of the moment, coupled with the illicit thrill of voyeurism, ignited a fire within me that I had never experienced before. As I glanced at Naomi, I saw my own desire reflected in her eyes, and I knew that this night would mark a turning point in our relationship, one from which there would be no return. Scarlett's muffled moans intensified our excitement, sending shivers down our spines. As she noticed our voyeuristic gaze, her initial embarrassment quickly transformed into a smoldering look of desire. Our eyes locked, creating an electric atmosphere that crackled with tension. My body responded instinctively, heart racing as I wrapped a protective arm around Naomi's shoulders, drawing her closer. Naomi, equally aroused by the erotic display before us, turned to me with eyes dark with passion. Her lips found mine in a searing kiss, our bodies pressed together as we continued to observe Scarlett and Victor's intimate dance. Emboldened by the heat of the moment, Naomi reached out with trembling fingers and deliberately widened the sliding door's opening, fully exposing us to the other couple's view. As Naomi's actions grew bolder, Scarlett's eyes flickered towards us. With a coy smile playing on her lips, she beckoned us with a come-hither gesture that sent a jolt of excitement through my core. "What's happening here? Is this going too far?" The thought flashed through my mind like lightning, but it was quickly drowned out by the thunderous beating of my heart. By then, all four of us had surpassed the point of restraint, swept away by a tide of desire that threatened to consume us whole. With a shared look of understanding, we fully opened the sliding door and approached Victor and Scarlett. The air was thick with the scent of arousal and the promise of forbidden pleasure. I pulled Naomi close, my lips crashing against hers in a passionate kiss that spoke volumes of our shared excitement. Lost in the heat of the moment, I found myself drawn to Scarlett, our lips meeting in a kiss that sent sparks flying through my body. Her voluptuous form pressed against me, igniting a fire I never knew existed. A wave of unprecedented excitement washed over me, leaving me breathless and trembling with anticipation. My wife and I had crossed a threshold, and any lingering shame evaporated like morning mist under the sun of our burning desire. With hands that shook with a mixture of nervousness and arousal, I slowly began to undress Naomi. My lips traced a tantalizing path along her soft skin as it was revealed, leaving a trail of kisses from the elegant curve of her neck to the silky expanse of her thighs. Naomi's body radiated desire, her skin emanating a subtle, intoxicating fragrance that made my head spin. Naomi's responses to my touch were remarkably different from anything I'd experienced before. More intense, more passionate. Each caress elicited a soft gasp or a breathy moan, revealing a powerful longing I'd never witnessed in our years together. It was as if this situation had awakened a primal side of her that had long been dormant. Beside us, Victor and Scarlett continued their passionate lovemaking, their uninhibited display of affection serving to heighten our arousal even further. Though I tried to focus solely on Naomi, my gaze inevitably drifted to Scarlett's alluring form. The sight of her lithe body moving in perfect synchronicity with Victor's was hypnotic, and I found myself lost in a potent fantasy of intimacy with both women simultaneously. This forbidden thought sent a fresh wave of arousal coursing through my veins, pushing me to the brink of ecstasy. The room's atmosphere grew increasingly heated as we all neared our climax. Our breathing became ragged, punctuated by moans and gasps of pleasure that intermingled in a symphony of desire. We could sense the extreme pleasure in each other's movements and expressions, creating a feedback loop of arousal that seemed to amplify with each passing moment. This novel, intense experience brought my wife and me a level of joy and connection we had never before experienced. After reaching our collective peak in a crescendo of ecstasy, we paused to catch our breath, exchanging meaningful glances that spoke volumes without a single word uttered. In a move that surprised us all, Victor approached Naomi with a gentle smile. He leaned in and placed a soft, tender kiss on her lips, a gesture that seemed to symbolize the dissolution of all remaining boundaries between us. In that moment, we realized that we had embarked on a journey of exploration and intimacy that promised to reshape our relationships in ways we had never imagined possible. With trembling hands and racing hearts, we embarked on an exploration of each other's partners. The initial awkwardness dissolved rapidly, replaced by an electric current of desire that coursed through our veins like liquid fire. Our fingertips, hesitant at first, soon danced across unfamiliar skin with growing confidence, leaving trails of goosebumps in their wake. As our lips met in tentative kisses, the warmth of our mingled breaths created an intoxicating atmosphere, heavy with the promise of forbidden pleasure. Time seemed to warp and stretch, each moment expanding into an eternity of sensation. I found myself utterly captivated by Scarlett's presence, drinking in every detail of her form. Her skin, soft as silk beneath my touch, exuded a subtle fragrance that intoxicated my senses, a heady mix of jasmine and something uniquely her. The gentle curves of her body awakened a primal hunger within me that I had never experienced before, not even in the early days of passion with my wife. Every caress, every stolen glance, every shared breath ignited new sparks of pleasure that threatened to consume us all in a conflagration of lust. A palpable tension hung in the air, crackling with excitement and forbidden desire. Our exploration of each other felt both endless and fleeting, a paradox of sensation that left us breathless and yearning for more. In those moments, we discovered new depths of intimacy and connection that transcended the boundaries of our established relationships. It was as if we were rediscovering the art of touch, each caress a brushstroke painting a masterpiece of shared ecstasy. Later, when the intensity had subsided and we found ourselves in a comfortable afterglow, limbs entangled and hearts still racing, I turned to Scarlett with a question burning on my lips. "Did you plan this?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, still raspy from our passionate encounter. Her response was an enigmatic smile, her eyes twinkling with mischief as she replied, "Well, who knows?" The ambiguity of her answer only served to heighten the intrigue of our encounter, leaving me both satisfied and hungry for more. It wasn't until some time later, during a private conversation with Victor over drinks, that the truth came to light. With a mix of pride and sheepishness, Victor confessed that the entire scenario had been meticulously orchestrated. He and Scarlett had been on a quest to find the perfect couple with whom they could explore this new dimension of intimacy. They had observed us for months, gauging our reactions to subtle hints and suggestive comments. The revelation sent a shiver of excitement down my spine, realizing how long they must have been watching us, planning this seduction. It was a game of chess, and we had been their willing pawns. That fateful night marked the beginning of a thrilling new chapter in our lives. For the past 5 years, we've been regularly organizing these intimate gatherings at our respective homes, each one more exciting than the last. Each encounter brings new discoveries, deepening our connections and pushing the boundaries of pleasure and trust. We've explored role-playing, experimented with toys, and even ventured into the world of BDSM, always with respect and consent at the forefront. What started as a shocking and unexpected turn of events has blossomed into a rich, fulfilling aspect of our relationships, one that continues to surprise and delight us with each passing day. Our marriages, far from being threatened, have grown stronger, built on a foundation of honesty, trust, and shared adventure. As we continue to navigate this unconventional path, we find ourselves more in love, more connected, and more alive than ever before.